This is why you're eating less but can't lose fat and see the lean definition that you're working so hard for. You don't know the difference between eating less and eating smart. These two meals have the same calories, but one will leave you starving in an hour and crashing by the afternoon, and the other will leave you full for hours. In this video, I'm going to show you the exact meal formula I use to eat more and lose fat without feeling hungry all the time, so you can finally see real progress. This is part 1 of my fat loss guide series, so make sure to follow along. And stay till the end because I'm giving you a sample grocery list so you can take action right away and not just watch and forget. My name is Paulina, and as somebody that lost 60 pounds, I'm here to help you lose fat and tone up with no fats. Think about it. Whether you lose or gain fat comes from your day-to-day meals. And if 80% of your weekly meals will follow the formula I'm about to share, it's going to be hard not to lose weight. This is the exact 5-step framework I use to make meals that actually keep me satisfied for hours, which makes fat loss easy. Step 1, always start by figuring out your protein first. Because out of the 3 macronutrients, digestion of protein burns the most calories, which is why it keeps you fuller for longer. Your body burns about 20 to 30% of calories just from digestion of protein, compared to carbs that just burn 5 to 10% and fats that burn 0 to 3%. That's called the thermic effect of food, and it means that if you eat 100 calories of protein, it might only net you 70 to 80 calories. It is also an essential building block of lean muscle, which increases metabolism and gives your body that toned look. Before I knew this, I was eating typical healthy foods like salads, fruit bowls, smoothies, and I was wondering why I was starving right after. But making protein the starting point of every meal helps me actually feel full after my meals and stop obsessing over food all day. But not all protein is created equal. When you're in a fat loss stage, you want to focus on lean proteins. It's the ones that give you the most amount of protein for the least amount of calories. For breakfast, some great choices are 0% Greek yogurt, low-fat cottage cheese, eggs mixed with egg whites, turkey bacon, or a scoop of isolate protein powder. For lunch or dinner, think lean meats like chicken breast, lean ground turkey or extra lean beef, canned tuna, and shrimp. I know that plain chicken breast and lean meats in general don't sound as exciting, but my top tip on still making it tasty is use a lot of spices. Garlic powder, salt, pepper, paprika, herbs, lemon juice. Don't be shy with the spices and you'll be surprised how delicious it turns out. As a general rule of thumb, aim for about 25 to 35 grams of protein per meal. Visually, that's about a quarter of your plate that comes from lean protein. So you're looking at about a palm size of chicken breast, 3 to 4 egg whites with 1 whole egg, or a scoop of protein powder. By the way, if you're finding this video valuable so far, don't forget to like this video because it helps put this out to more people. Now, step number 2 is to make it voluminous. That sounds very fancy, but volume eating is the biggest cheat code if you like to eat a lot. And who doesn't? Volume foods are low in calories, but they take up lots of space. For example, look at this image of 400 calories of veggies. It fills your whole stomach versus 400 calories of beef, 400 calories of oil. Because they fill up so much space in your stomach for the same amount of calories, it helps you feel full. It is also mentally satisfying because the more foods your brain sees on the plate, the more it perceives that you're eating enough, which then signals to your body that you're full and satisfied. In one study, women that started their meal with big salad ended up eating about 120 calories less during their next course, even when the rest of the meal stayed the same in calories and size. But when the pasta they ate was made more calorie dense or the portion was bigger, they ate more even if they weren't hungry. So how you feel after a meal isn't always about hunger, it's what your brain perceives on the plate. To apply this, add hydrating and water-rich veggies to your meals, like cucumber, lettuce, zucchini, mushrooms, cauliflower rice, and add high-fiber, non-starchy veggies as well. Broccoli, Brussels sprouts, green beans, or asparagus. The fiber in these veggies help with fullness and support your digestion. If you like snacking, go for fresh fruits like berries or water-based fruits like watermelon. Popcorn is a great high-volume snack as well. 3 cups of made popcorn is under 100 calories, which is crazy. You can even apply volume eating to your carbs. Potatoes, oats, and whole grains take up more space and are more filling because they're higher in fiber compared to things like cereal or white rice. And you can even add volume when you cook. I love cooking my oats with extra water to fluff them up, or even adding a splash of water to eggs when I'm scrambling or making an omelette. Your plate will look twice as full with the same amount of calories. To apply volume eating, a good idea is to make half your plate veggies, especially when it's a mix of water-rich and high-fiber ones. The mix of water and fiber in the veggies will curb your hunger like crazy. Step 3 of of the formula is to pick your carb source. Now, I do not accept carb slander on this channel. If you feel like you crash after your meals, I'm convinced it's because you don't eat enough carbs or you're eating the wrong carbs. There are two types of carbs, simple and complex. Research shows that complex carbs like oats, sweet potatoes, and quinoa digest more slowly and keep you fuller for longer because they're high in fiber. Meanwhile, simple carbs like white bread or sugary cereals spike your blood sugar, which leads to a crash, triggering sugar cravings, fatigue, and you being hungry 30 minutes after. But even with complex carbs, you want to avoid eating them naked, basically eating carbs by themselves. For example, just snacking on a piece of fruit. The immediate spike leads to a crash, and that's when you start feeling hungrier and get cravings. But when you pair a pear with nut butter, which has fats and some protein, this slows digestion, which prevents the crash and keeps your energy stable. This is a graph from Glucose Goddess on Instagram. She has tons of research and tips on preventing the glucose spike. Definitely check out more if you're interested. Now, for carb sources, for breakfast, good options are oats, whole grain bread, fruits like berries or banana, or even high fiber cereal. For lunch and dinner, think sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, or quinoa. Aim for about 20 to 40 grams of carbs per meal, depending on your activity and energy levels. That's about half a cup of quinoa. And if you don't feel like tracking, aim for about quarter of your plate to be consistent of complex carbs. Pause this video right now and comment your favorite carb. Personally, I'm obsessed with sweet potatoes right now. Step number 4 in the meal formula is to add a little healthy fat. A little because they're the most calorie-dense macronutrient. Per 1 gram of protein, you get 4 calories. Same per 1 gram of carb. But 1 gram of fat equals to 9 calories. But it is not a reason to completely avoid them. In fact, cutting fats too low is one of the biggest mistakes I see women make when trying to lose weight. I've made this mistake myself and it backfired. When your fat intake drops too low, that creates hormone imbalance, which then creates a snowball effect. You have lower energy, worse sleep, high cortisol, which creates more cravings, hunger, less energy for your workouts, and more brain fog. All of which then leads to no progress or even reverse progress. You just end up gaining weight instead. So in trying to eat clean or lower calorie, you're pushing yourself farther away from your goal. Fats are a key of the fat loss meal formula. Adding fats to your meals slow down your digestion, which makes you feel fuller for longer. This may seem counterintuitive because I just hyped up volume eating. And yes, volume is amazing, but not when it comes to fats. Fats don't take much space on your plate, but once you start adding them in regularly, you'll notice a big difference in how satisfied you feel after your meals, even if your meals look smaller. Some great fat sources to add to your meals are avocado, shredded cheese or feta, olive oil, nut butters, or nuts and seeds. You can also hit your fat and protein intake by choosing fattier protein sources, like salmon, eggs, chicken thighs, or ground beef. Aim for about thumb-sized portion per meal, 8 to 12 grams if you're tracking. That's about half an avocado or 2 whole eggs. The final step, and it is completely optional, but it's one of those tiny habits that make a huge difference. Order of eating. I learned this tip from Glucose Goddess a few years ago, and I've been doing it on autopilot ever since. Here's how it works. When you sit down to eat, try to eat in this order. Veggies first, then proteins, then fats, and then carbs. This helps in minimizing the blood sugar spike from your meal, which will lead to more stable energy, fewer cravings, and better hunger control later in the day. It doesn't change what you eat, just the order. Of course, you don't have to do that with every meal you eat. If you're eating a sandwich, just enjoy the thing. Like, you don't need to reconstruct it. But if you're having a typical dinner of salad, potatoes, and chicken, just try to eat it in order and see how you feel afterwards. Now, if this seems a bit confusing or overwhelming, let me show you how I use this formula to create high volume balanced breakfast that you've seen earlier in the video. Here's everything you'll need to recreate this. Egg whites, oats, forgot to show about strawberries or any other fruit you like, spinach, almonds, vanilla protein powder, and almond milk. For my protein source, I started with 1 egg and 1 egg white. The yolk has some good fats as well. I added a splash of water and almond milk for volume, then I used salt, pepper, garlic, powder, and paprika to make it taste flavorful. Then I sprayed my pan with cooking spray and added a handful of spinach to a pan. It looks like a lot, but once you cook it, it shrinks so much. For my oats, I cooked them in lots of water. They came out super fluffy, and I mixed it with half a scoop of vanilla protein powder. This gave me that slow digesting, complex carb that keeps my blood sugar stable. And it tastes amazing with the protein powder mixed in. Now for fats, I added a couple of almonds on top of the oats. I also sprinkled in a ton of cinnamon and a little salt. Don't skip the salt, it really brings out the flavor and helps with hydration too. On the side, we've got a nice coffee with a splash of almond milk and half a scoop of protein powder for satiety and flavor. I also added some sugar-free sweetener because I like my coffee very sweet. I like to have a little bit of everything, so I completed my meal with some strawberries on the side for extra fiber, volume, and sweetness. Here's the final result. I will share the full recipe in the comments so you can recreate this yourself if you would like. Alright, let's quickly recap everything so you leave this video knowing exactly how to build meals that actually help you lose fat without feeling like you're starving. Your fat loss meal formula. Start with lean protein. Add volume, choose the right carbs, include a small portion of healthy fats. Eat in the right order. And here's a grocery list you can screenshot to make following this formula easier. This is just part 1 of my Guide to Fat Loss series, so make sure you follow along to keep learning. I'll see you in the next one.